This is the Quick Start video tutorial for new form engine builders. You need to be a QuickBase app builder at some level already to be a form engine builder. While you may only need to learn from a couple or few of these sections to get started with your first use cases, the big promise of the form engine is that it can QuickBase enable your company's form and document processes, speeding up and improving the business in many areas. So we hope once you see what it is built to do for you, you'll use it to its full potential to modernize your business. The form engine is the most powerful add-on you can add to your QuickBase. It now adds unique functionality in all 5 of these areas and more as we add new features. You have all 5 of these modules in one product. Number 1, the Business Form Digitizer lets you digitize fixed format forms like government forms that you have in PDF, Word, or image files and import them to make them working QuickBase forms with e-signatures. QuickBase Web Forms on the left are for data entry. Form engine forms eliminate data entry by making your real business forms of all kinds into QuickBase forms. Number 2, the Business Form Builder is a no-code HTML builder to let you build dynamic-sized business forms you need from blank canvas by importing or copying and pasting from Word documents or other content. The number 3, Custom Form Builder, lets you build beautiful, branded, custom QuickBase forms in minutes with no code. The only way to create forms like this now is by writing custom code or using third-party products and trying to integrate them with QuickBase. Number 4, the Document and Presentation Builder replaces exact forms, letting you output data-populated documents, creating PowerPoints and other presentations, and even generating presentations from your QuickBase data like nothing else. Number 5 is the Smart Mobile Forms with QR codes. Lets you build custom mobile forms and assets you need with geolocation, pre-filled fields, and more. All of these areas add significantly to QuickBase's native functionality and can replace other third-party tools you may be using like DocuSign, FormStack, and Exact Forms, all with one product. There are short videos diving into each of these on our website, advantagequickbase.com, on the Form Engine page. We believe the combination of the Form Engine and QuickBase is now the most powerful forms-based workflow platform available, and we hope you'll use it to modernize your organization in the many areas it enables. Form Engine use case ideas. This slide shows some guidance for problem areas in the business that you can use the Form Engine to improve. Legacy process areas full of waste, delays, and errors. Manual form and document-based processes that everyone has are costly, including the cost and time of their generation, execution, and correctly getting the data and PDFs into your QuickBase as a source system. Until all that happens and gets into your QuickBase, the work to deliver on those transactions can't even start. Generating data-populated output documents, letters, presentations, and other assets is also a costly manual process. With the Form Engine and QuickBase, these can be centralized and automated. Cost and waste eliminated. Valuable new assets created, all to get the resulting business improvements. Using the Form Engine to solve them saves money, improves service, and speeds up the business all at once. Here are specific common business processes you may want to automate with the Form Engine and QuickBase. I won't go into these. Feel free to pause or reference them again for your use. Now we'll move into using the Form Engine. As a form builder, you access the Form Engine from this address. Log in by inputting the short realm name of your QuickBase realm, email and password you use to log into QuickBase. You only ever need your QuickBase credentials to access the Form Engine. There aren't any separate Form Engine credentials to keep up with. If you're on single sign-on in QuickBase, you need to create a user token and input that here as your Form Engine login credential. And click to authorize QuickBase access, logging you into the Builder portal. The first of 2 main screens is your home screen here, which is your library of forms you or other authorized builders have digitized to your realm. You can create, manage, and use your digitized form templates from this screen, and when you create new Form Engine assets, they'll appear in this list on the home screen. Your library for your QuickBase realm will be blank to start and will populate with each form you create. You work with them all from here. You digitize new forms by clicking here and choosing your target table for the form or document you want to create. It will check and see if you have that app configured to require an app token. If your target app does require an app token, it will tell you and give you a link to create a new app token or use an existing one. You can copy and paste the app token here. Click Submit and go to the next step. Now you have a choice of creating a static form or document or a dynamic one. You use the static option, which we're calling the Business Form Digitizer, when you have an existing form or document with a fixed format. This means the form or document doesn't change in size for the data that's in it. Government forms of all kinds are like this. You use the dynamic option, which we're calling the Business Form Builder, when you need forms or documents that dynamically resize for the QuickBase data that's in them. You can see types of things that need this. And whether you start by importing a master Word file, copying and pasting content from Word or other sources, or building the forms from scratch, you'll be using our powerful no-code HTML builder. Building static forms and documents. Let's start with a static form example, like a W-4 form, if you wanted to automate executing those with all your employees and keeping them in QuickBase. You need your target QuickBase app to have a table with all the fields in the W-4, and you'll need to build that in QuickBase before you can digitize a W-4 to it. We have that here. So now I can import a current W-4 PDF, choose the target table in my app that has the W-4 fields, and start digitizing the W-4. I'll need a file attachment field in the QuickBase table to hold the generated W-4s. So I created that with my other fields, and I can choose that as the upload file here. I also need an e-signature in the form, so I needed to create another file attachment field in my table, since we're using file attachment fields for e-signatures. I can now start dragging and dropping the fields over the spaces in the form. Any fields you have set to required in your QuickBase will be displayed as red and must be included in your form to work for adding new records. Where you may need radio buttons on your forms rather than checkboxes, you use a multiple choice field in QuickBase. And when you put it on your form, you have the option here to break it into radio buttons and put those buttons wherever you need them on your form. You can't do that in native QuickBase forms. You also control field behaviors, like requiring fields and making them conditional with the behaviors function here. These are our version of form rules, since QuickBase's API won't let us bring in form rules. And you have robust CSS formatting controls from our standard list and custom CSS code you can apply to fields in the field style section in this screen. This is free-form field placement. There aren't any row and column limitations here. Fields can also snap to a line, or you can align them visually with red lines. E-signatures are file attachment fields, so I needed a file attachment field in my target table for each e-signature I want on a form. I call this one signature, and when I drop the file attachment field like that in, the form engine will ask me how I want to use it on the form, as a file attachment, a signature, or an embedded image, like photos in a form. I choose signature this time and format it to the size I want it. I'll only do a few fields for brevity, but when I have them in place, I save and have a working W-4 form in QuickBase. Here's the URL that renders the add record version of this form. If you click here, it copies the URL to your clipboard. If you click here, it opens the form in a new tab. We use this link to have the form we're working on open in the next tab, so you can go back and forth and see the form's state as you build it out. It's common for master forms and documents to be updated over time, and we accommodate that easily here. If, for instance, the next year's W-4 comes out, you can simply replace the background template in options here and upload the new W-4. It will replace the background image and leave all the fields in place in your working form. So you can adjust any field positions, and your existing links for last year's W-4 are now updated to be your current year's W-4. You don't have to rebuild anything. And if instead you needed to keep last year's form intact, but also need a new year's form, you don't need to build the new one from scratch. You just save as on the last year's form and replace the background image to make that copy form your form for this year. And forms or documents that are mostly the same can be copied and modified as new forms using the Save As feature. A note, though, that the new files need to have the same number of pages as the form currently has. If your master template will have a different number of pages than the old one, you just need to rebuild the form as from that new master. Once you've digitized a form, it is usable for multiple functions. Besides adding new records into QuickBase, clicking this Edit link and following the wizard lets you create links to the form so your users can edit existing records. This creates a formula URL field, so there is a new button in each record that renders that record in the form's format. Clicking this button or sending the URL to anyone lets them update the record in the form's format with these signatures if useful. Using the print option here is a similar wizard that creates a formula URL field that displays the populated form or document for download to PDF or print. The fields aren't editable by the user. The add link here is a similar wizard that creates a formula URL field that you pre-fill with data from an existing QuickBase record, or maybe just a relationship to a parent record, like an edit record URL. But when the user inputs data and submits it, it creates a new record in QuickBase rather than editing an existing record. This can have a lot of use cases when you want something like employee W-4s updated over time, but by creating new W-4 records, not overwriting existing ones. There's the Generate PDF function that auto-generates and attaches PDFs or PowerPoints in the form's format for existing QuickBase records, using a webhook to trigger the auto PDF generation. There is also the Import PDF function here to parse data out of populated PDFs. The PDF data parsing can be very useful for automatically extracting data out of historical PDFs or incoming PDFs that you can't replace with FormEngine forms, for example. There's how-to documentation on these and other functions in the support portal in the product. You can embed reports into static forms and documents, but it has some formatting limitations because of the fixed size of the space on the form to fit them. See the how-to on embedded reports in the support portal. In the static form type here, you are embedding reports you build in your QuickBase app and size them in the form here. Invoices, like in this example, are common FormEngine uses, replacing exact forms, whether your invoices work better as a static form here or a dynamic form that I'll show shortly. When you embed a report of child records like this, it displays all the children of the parent, like for invoice line items. There are advanced ways to embed reports in static forms that give you more flexibility in formatting, essentially using a rich text formula field and building the formatted report you want in that single field, and then putting that field on the form instead of a report. We can advise you on that, and we'll add documentation on it as quickly as we can. Since the FormEngine follows QuickBase permissions for data security, you have at least 3 options for authenticating your form completer users in any FormEngine form or document. FormEngine forms and links to pages will behave like native QuickBase forms and links to pages, either requiring a user to log in to see them or have EOTI, or everyone on the internet, enabled, so users don't need to authenticate to get to them. But the FormEngine has a third option for using user tokens that QuickBase Native doesn't have, and this is an excellent option that will be offered to you when you create forms and documents for editing, pre-filling, or formatted output of QuickBase data. Custom branded forms. Whenever you need a beautiful branded form for customer or public use, for instance, you would normally have to write or pay for expensive code to create a working custom QuickBase form. But with a FormEngine, you can do it easily with no code. The approach using the static form builder here would be to create the form background built in another program like PowerPoint, Word, or anything, or use an image or screenshot background like a photo or part of your website. Import your file as a background image. Then just start dragging and dropping your fields. You can move them wherever you want and size them correctly for your form space. And you have a custom branded real QuickBase form for your website, event, embedded in Pages, mobile, in minutes with no code. Very powerful. Building dynamic forms and documents. For building the dynamic forms and documents you need to replace exact forms and much more, we developed this no-code HTML builder for QuickBase. You can build the form, document, and other business assets you need from blank canvas here, like in Word, but for the web, and make them QuickBase assets by inserting the live QuickBase fields from your target app and table on the left into the content on your page. You have the formatting ribbon and icons at the top for formatting content, images, and embedded QuickBase data. This includes inserting images, tables. You can toggle the container outlines on or off. You can toggle to the code if you prefer working with the code. There are some custom icons that insert things like HTML containers. This enables you to build real, custom, free-form, dynamic QuickBase forms from blank canvas with no code. Here's how you build a dynamic form or output document. For instance, from this Word document is a template. I can import this file, but I'm just going to copy all the contents from it. Start a new form engine form and choose Dynamic Form. Give it a title, create, choose my target table, and I get a blank canvas. I'll hit enter a few times, and if I paste the content onto the canvas, I get a pretty good version to start with in this case. Some formatting comes across better than others. I have to clean it up a little because Word formatting doesn't always translate perfectly to HTML. It defaults to an 8.5-inch page size, but you can change that like this, including making it for on-screen presentations, where you choose widescreen. I can format any of the content with ribbon bar icons like in Word. Then, instead of dragging and dropping the fields like in the static builder, you highlight or place your cursor where you want to insert fields, and click the arrow next to the field to put it there. I can also format the fields either with the ribbon bar icons above or double-clicking on a field and applying some CSS styles. You can see that this is a true no-code, free-form HTML form and document builder, the first of its kind for QuickBase. There are default links to all the fields. They can be moved around, and their size can be changed individually. For the visual benefit of your users, you may want to size text or multi-line fields to the space you think they need to fill them in. But whether you do or not, the fields will accept their data entry, and expand to display all the text in the resulting form when they submit the form. That's the dynamic nature of these forms. I'll finish adding some fields and signature. You can show or hide the block outlines, and you'll be working with containers like paragraphs, divs, and tables in this builder. For simple forms and docs, you can hide the outlines if you want, but for more highly formatted forms, you want to be familiar with using those HTML containers so your digital forms can look and behave the way you want them to. For developers, you can get into the source HTML here too for even more control. This dynamic builder is the modern replacement for exact forms and so much more, since it's for dynamic form input, document and presentation output, and more all in one. I can save it, and it works as a new dynamic form. And here's what another dynamic form looks like in the HTML builder screen. You can see the containers and the structure that gives it its standard PO form shape. Embedding reports and generating presentations. I'll show you how to embed child reports in a dynamic documents here. I have these child records that roll up to a monthly parent record, and I want to embed them into a dynamic form. I create a new dynamic form to the parent record. I'll just give it a quick title and some formatting. and embed the child report in it by inserting the months from the fields list, which is actually a report length field. I get this pop-up to let me choose one of two report types, tabular or vertical report orientation, and those are very different. We have built in a field selector so that you can easily choose the fields and the field order you want to embed embedded report right here, so you don't have to build a dedicated report in your QuickBase app for the dynamic builder here. You can also format the field labels and fields themselves individually. You'll see it creates a red section where the report is contained. What this means is that anything in the red section will repeat for each record in the report. You'll get an output result like this, which can be further formatted however you need. You may have data-populated output documents like quotes, POs, invoices that you generate today using exact forms, or you don't use QuickBase to generate. The Form Engine is the modern tool to use for this. Now for what we call vertical reports, which is even more flexible. And for some more complex formats, like this quote with embedded report that has 2 lines per item and a high level of formatting, exact forms and other tools fail. That quote in a Form Engine dynamic builder would look like this. So if we configure the previous simple tabular reports into a vertical report type and choose some fields for the embedded report, it renders like this in the builder. You can see the fields in the red report section can be freeform placed in containers, and records will repeat for those fields in that configuration. The vertical report type uniquely frees your report fields and tables for freeform placement in pages, presentations, and any highly formatted, data-populated output assets you may need. And this builder goes beyond that, with the functionality to automatically generate data-driven presentations. So let's say I have this PowerPoint presentation format that I need output, and 1 slide per state for a month's reporting deck. I have the data for all the states in this table, and their child records to this parent May 2022 record to this table. If I create a dynamic form for the parent record with the embedded child report in vertical orientation, I can build out this formatted single slide here with embedded formatted fields with a page break at the end and save it. Then I create an edit record formula URL field to the parent table for that dynamic form that will display as these generated PowerPoint buttons in every record. It could easily be a print field as well. I'm just using the edit field for a purpose I'll show you shortly. Now when I render one of the buttons, it actually generates my slide deck, 1 slide for every child record in this May 2022 parent record. We just auto-created some executive performance reporting, and now the button will automate its generation every month. You can send this link to users, or save any of the presentations as PowerPoints or PDFs and send those files to users. And beyond that, you can even put this questions and comments field at the bottom, so the presentation can solicit feedback from the users in the presentation itself. That's why I used an edit record button instead of just print. There are a world of uses for organizations that have a lot of presentations or data-populated assets. Custom mobile forms and portals with QR codes. Static forms are very good for mobile functionality. Most all forms will work for mobile. They just aren't optimized for mobile per se. So for a mobile-only form, you can have a background image shaped for a phone screen like this. Import it and start dragging and dropping fields onto it in a single column. This may look extra large on the builder screen, but render this form on your phone from the QR code here if you'd like to see what it looks like, and it looks about right. I'll give you a second if you'd like to render the form on your phone. Form Engine forms can even be custom mobile portals with a nested set of specific purpose forms, documents, and other assets, like the sample mobile portal on the left. And they can be smart forms, knowing what equipment, facility, or employee they're attached to without having to ask the user. They can have e-signatures for mobile sign-offs and SMS text integration. This is very advanced functionality that the Form Engine uniquely enables for you, and we hope you'll employ it. Here are some use cases for equipment, facility, or vehicle-specific QR codes and forms. I won't take time going through these. Here's a healthcare or other inventory request and replenishment example with inventory-specific QR codes. Here are some sample working mobile forms and their QR codes. Feel free to try any of them. Some of these have pre-filled values where they know what they're attached to. They can know where they are by live geolocation or pre-filled values for fixed location assets and more. Look into the documentation on creating smart QR codes. Using them can be a game changer for many businesses. And for creating read-only and mobile informational assets, take a document, image, or other asset you want to digitize, like a safety rules document. Import it as a background. You have to give the form engine a target app, but not a table, since they won't have any QuickBase fields in it, and save it. And you can print or embed the QR code anywhere your users need to pull up that asset on their phone. In less than a minute, you have created an online version of the safety rules with URL link or QR code for mobile, and it's in your form engine library for use anywhere. The workplace of the future will have QR codes everywhere, providing on-the-spot information and interaction with employees, customers, the public. You can start delivering that future now with just the form engine. Here for your reference is a vendor pre-qualification and onboarding workflow example. It could just as easily be for employees or customers. If you're doing your vendor qualification and onboarding with the form engine in QuickBase, like can be done in this Vendor Lightning app, you could have your W-9, pre-qualification form, NDA, and other forms digitized with the form engine. Then, for instance, if one of your buyers wanted to qualify and onboard a new vendor, they could just go to the vendor table and fill out as little as 3 fields for the vendor name, and contact email, and save the vendor record to kick off the modernized process. Then a QuickBase notification goes to the vendor contact like this that says, "Thank you for your interest in doing business with us. Please click the links to complete and submit the forms we need." When they click the first one, they get a form engine online version of the company's real pre-qual form, populated with as much information as the buyer put into the QuickBase vendor record. That's easy for the vendors to update and complete. The fields in the form are real QuickBase fields, since it's a real QuickBase form to the vendor table. It's enhanced with features like freeform radio button placement, which is critical. Any fields can be required, and field behaviors can make some fields conditional on the input to other fields. It has e-signatures, so they don't have to download a PDF, print, sign, scan, and email. They just complete this online version with full field validation and submit it. They get a success message, which you can configure, and they're offered a download PDF of the form they just completed. Back in the vendor record in QuickBase, when I, as a buyer, refreshed the screen, all the information the vendor provided in the pre-qual form updated the QuickBase record, and a copy of their signed PDF was auto-generated and attached in the record. Here's the same vendor online completion of your NDA. It's partially pre-filled with live QuickBase data from the vendor record that the vendor themselves just updated. It has required fields. The online form engine forms are identical to the PDF, Word, and paper forms they replace, so the users don't see anything different, except the forms have full field validation, pre-filled data, and e-signatures built in, so it's easier for them to correctly and completely fill out and submit the forms you need them to. Then it saves your people emails, file shuffling, and data entry, and any errors in those, because the validated data and generated PDFs go into QuickBase instantly, correctly, 24/7, saving money and speeding up the business. We'll wrap up with this screen, a step-by-step to digitizing a simple form like your company's NDA, so you can start executing it digitally in QuickBase instead of manually by email, paper, and PDF. I'll leave it for reference. This quick start is just to give you an idea of the scope of functionality you now exclusively have in the form engine. There is more documentation in the product, and we'll add more videos and support as quickly as we can. Try digitizing and putting one or more basic forms to work for you first. It's very powerful, but complex use cases can take more skill and experience, whether you learn to do them or engage us to do them for you. The form engine is growing rapidly, and we appreciate any feedback. We hope you'll use it to improve your business in many areas. Contact us if we can help. Thank you.